Good to see you.
Hello, Mike.
So it was June of 2006 that you came back to your craft?
Yes.
And in June of 2006, what were you thinking?
Well, my first question as I thought about coming back was, can the company be saved? I was very disturbed having had the opportunity to watch from the sidelines as to what had happened to the company over the prior couple of years. And I was worried as to whether or not things had deteriorated to a point that the company could not be turned around. I spoke to enough people and did enough homework to convince myself that this was indeed the iconic portfolio that I had always thought it was, that there was still some very, very talented people at the company, and that there was an opportunity to be able to turn it around. And so my first thought was, what's it going to take, and what do I need to do to get it going?
And so when you were thinking about what it would take to get it going, you started off with let's get growing?
Yes, yes.
Why let's get growing?
Well, I thought the whole challenge of what had happened to the company over the prior couple of years is that they had become maniacally focused on cost to the exclusion of thinking about growth. And so for me, it was both a call to action and I think it was a liberating idea for an organization that had been really battered and had lost its self-confidence. And so I found the idea of let's get growing really resonated with the population.
And you introduced the idea of the growth family.
Yes.
What was the growth family about?
It very quickly became clear that our issue was not our categories, it was our participation within those categories. There were many consumers that were eating cheese, they were eating meat, they were drinking coffee, they just were not eating and drinking our brands of those categories. And so the idea was really to take a look at what we needed to do to look for the growth opportunities within those categories. The growth diamond was simply a visual representation of the mega trends that were going on. It was about trading up to premium products. It was about focus on health and wellness. It was about focus on convenience. And those were really, that was the lens that we then used to reframe our categories and to make them more relevant and contemporary to our consumers.
You've also been fearless about changing your portfolio, taking businesses out and bringing new businesses in. What gives you the confidence to do that? How do you decide?
I think the one thing that struck me as I looked at our portfolio, as I mentioned, I felt pretty good about the fundamental categories that we were in. It became clear, though, that on our best day, even if we could get those categories growing at a faster rate, we would not be a top-tier performer. So we certainly could improve our performance, but to really become top-tier, we really needed a few more tailwinds.
By my count, you spent $25 billion between Lou
27, actually.
$27 billion?
Yes.
Between Lou and Cadbury?
Yeah, about 7 on Lou, about $20 billion on Cadbury.
And the first one, Lou, got you into China, and the second one, Cadbury, got you into India?
India and solidified our positions in Mexico, actually. The neat thing about Lou is it did give us a beachhead in a number of the developing markets, which was not an area that we were particularly successful in. We took our business, I'm really proud of this fact, we took our business in China. The legacy craft business before we bought Lou was about $50 million in China in 2007. We just sold $100 million in the month of January in China.
Wow.
And I think it's a real testament to the power of the toehold and then putting the right managers in place and then building on that infrastructure. So the combination really of those two moves leapfrogged us into a whole new position. And it's one of the reasons I'm so confident that we're on a much stronger growth trajectory today than we were a couple of years ago.
So one of the great things that you've done, and there are a lot, but one of the things that you've done is really done a cultural transformation of craft. And you have this string: act like owners, inspire trust, simple, inclusive, truthful, lead with head and heart. That's the Irene that I know. How did you come up with that?
You know, it's fascinating. People read those and they say, well, that sounds like you, Irene. How does it pertain to the company? The catalyst, actually, for the work that we did on values was the Lou acquisition. Because we had all these new employees who came into the company and said, well, what is craft? Who is craft? And we really were in the process of evolving. And so it was a terrific time for us to step back and say, who should craft be? And so we spent time talking to employees around the world. We did focus groups, we did online chats, and we talked to them about what are the characteristics of companies that they admire, what are the characteristics of a company they would like to work for, what are some of the strengths that they see in craft, What are some of the areas of opportunity? And on that basis, we distilled those down to the 7 values that you just referenced. And I found those to be incredibly powerful articulations of where we want to be. We are very clear that these are aspirational. We are not where we need to be on most of them.
So when you think about doing a transformation, when you think about a major change effort, what do you use as your guidance?
You know, I think anybody who's been involved in a transformation typically wishes they had gone faster. I think that's the thing I hear most frequently. And it's always a challenge to figure out how fast is fast enough, but I'm reminded by a story that I heard Leo Apotheker from HP tell, that the Swedish Parliament at one point was contemplating changing the side of the road that you drive on from the left to the right. There was a lot of controversy about it. It was a big decision, and they were very concerned. They said, you know, this is a really big decision. Let's not move too quickly. How about if week 1 we have bicycles move over, week 2 we have trucks move over, week 3 we have buses move over, and then in the 4th week we'll move over the cars. And I thought it was such a telling story about the reality of when you want to make cosmic transformational change, you got to move pretty quickly, and you got to get all the pieces coming together.
So if you were giving advice to a new CEO in another company, and he were to look at his operating team, what kind of expectation should he have or she have about how many will be present in 5 years?
I don't know that I have a rule of thumb with respect to numbers. I would say the major criterion is, do they get it? Do they get, you know, do they understand the direction that you want to take the company? And it's pretty clear who gets it and who doesn't. The key is whether the leaders are on the bus. And I think what I've come to understand is if they're not on the bus pretty quickly, they're never coming. And you have to deal with it. And so I think the key is making sure you have the right leaders in the right roles, and then the rest takes care of itself. And that was a critical consideration of mine as I looked around at my own executive team and at that next level down. I ended up, over the course of the first 2 years, I actually replaced almost half of those top 2 levels of management. But it's made a profound difference, because it just, when you have people that are like-minded, that are thinking new thoughts and are in line with the direction that you're trying to take the company, the rest of it happens far more naturally. There is only so much that the leader of the organization can actually do. I can make all the pronouncements that I'd like. It's those moments of truth every day that the employees experience with their immediate leaders. And so for me, it's all about the people.
So you've been able to move Kraft from bottom quartile to top quartile in terms of performance.
Yeah.
What's next for you? What's next for Kraft?
I think what's next for Kraft is to continue to perform at that level. It's going to take us a while. It's been a long time in coming, and it's going to take us a while before the market thinks that what we just did is a flash in the pan. So I think our focus right now is sustainably performing at that higher level, but I have every confidence that we've got the right people, the right tools, and the right portfolio in place to pull that off. And I'm going to just breathe for a while.
Yes.
I'm looking forward to just watching it play out.
So some people say you're fearless. Are you fearless?
No, but I would say that I am a prudent risk taker, and I think there's a lot of discussion about what that looks like and how do you know a smart risk from a silly risk. I do my homework, and when I make a decision as to what is the right thing to do, I go for it. And obviously, I think the Cadbury transaction played out rather publicly, but we had really done our homework there, and I knew it was the right thing for the company. I had a fairly good sense of what it was going to take to pry the asset loose, and fortunately it played out the way people had hoped it would.
Now, some people say that managing over the next 2 decades in business is going to be much more difficult than managing over the last 2 decades. Do you see that? Do you see 21st century as being exceptionally challenging?
I do. It's just, it's partly because there are so many more variables out of our control. I think as I think about the impact that the macroeconomic environment has had on our business over the course even of the last 2 years, it's profound. It's profound in terms of the impact it's had on our categories, on our consumers, on our input costs, and that's not going away anytime soon. So I think you've got that. You've got government regulation, which is at an all-time high, whether it's Sarbanes-Oxley or it's some of the new regulations that are coming down the pike that give us far fewer degrees of freedom within which to operate. And then we have just the globalization of the economy that is just creates whole new sets of challenge, whether it is dealing with foreign governments, whether it is dealing with just political unrest in different parts of the world. And so it's a very unique set of challenges, I think, so much of which is outside an individual company's control.
Fantastic. That's great. Irene, thank you very much for doing this.
Thank you.
So that's the ultimate example of diversification, and when diversification doesn't pay off, you restructure. Acquisitions, when acquisitions are there and it's worth going for, have that fearless mindset to go and do those acquisitions. And today, Kraft probably has seen, it's over in terms of seeing the difficult times. Right. Now I want you to apply from morning what we did to this Kraft example. I was going to do Disney, that will take a long time again. So I want you to quickly apply what we learned from the beginning to this Kraft example. What did we learn from the beginning? We learned that there are 5 strategies to compete in the marketplace. We said it starts from cost to differentiation, and it goes from focus to narrow focus to wide focus. Remember? Then we said, once you know the strategy, it's all about the moves, the timing, and the scope. In terms of the moves, we spoke about offensive and defensive. In terms of the timing, we spoke about first mover was the fast follower. In terms of the scope, we spoke about horizontal mergers and acquisitions and vertical integration. Simply, then we said, all this is fine, but if you want to really grow, you look at enhancing the shareholder value. You enhance the shareholder value either by diversification or by outsourcing. You enhance your scope and then enhance the shareholder value, or you diversify. One of the biggest things that companies are shy of is to understand that the company is not doing well, or the companies could do better, and then they don't take action. We talk of very good examples like Google, Amazon, where they really expand by diversification and acquisitions, mergers. We saw the Google mergers and acquisitions. We saw what Amazon does in terms of first mover. We saw what Nike does in terms of defending. We saw what Under Armour does in terms of attacking, offensive. But the key lesson, all this is fine, but all companies go through a good time and a bad time. When the bad time comes, you need strong leaders like you, who knows the subject, who understands the business, but more than that, have the leadership ability to restructure the business. And the last example which I showed you, the Kraft example, was such a great company. It was almost going into bankruptcy. Sad state. This lady came and she turned it around. And before she left, she acquired the Cadbury business also. So that's all to do with leadership. So spend some time on the Kraft case study. From the beginning, tell me, and we will end after that, what did Kraft do in terms of the strategy, the 5 strategies? What did Kraft do in terms of the moves, timing, and scope? What did Kraft do in terms of diversification? outsourcing if you have examples, and last, restructure. That's all we have done within the whole day. Right, quickly in groups, quickly. Then we will finish it. Yeah, Joe one is going to be difficult. Okay, I'm out.
In the beginning, when they diagnosed the business on the sixth house, basically in understanding the strategy of the craft business, the attractiveness to the customers or the rivalry, or even understanding the marketplace and responding to the changing economic conditions or opportunities to grow, and also the enhancing performance targets. She went and analyzed all of that, as you found in the video. So when we looked at the 5 competitive strategies, we've looked at the target market of craft being a very broader market. So they have a very cross-border section of buyers. And then they were operating at a lower cost strategy. And then with the moves, which I'm going to explain subsequently, we found that they were expanding themselves into a broad differentiation model. So when they were operating on a lower cost strategy, they were learning through experiences, and also brand loyalty has been built in up to a level, and then they wanted to go into a differentiation strategy. So when they were differentiating their strategy, we were also looking at divesting the business, the lineup of business. So when they were restructuring, they were going into strategic actions which were fast. So when they were taking over or acquiring or getting into different business lines, they were always wanted to do it in a faster way once they have made the decision. So we believe that they went into an offensive attack when they went into the horizontal integration, such as with Cadbury, when they got the market, got into the markets such as China, India, and even Mexico. And if you remember, she was mentioning that they were doing $50 million a year in China, where they were, at the time she was speaking, they were doing $100 million a month. So with that data, we've also found out that where the acquiring the existing businesses was one of the strategies they were using, so that they were totally aware of their brand awarenesses and the economies of scales of the existing businesses, which could be contributing towards their spread of the service offering. And also they had the ready to access resources and capabilities, and entry barriers to India and China and Mexico, and those sort of things were avoided by getting into those markets. And the last but not least, the corporate cost, not really not really regard. What is this to open the new business? No, I'll just skip that because I can't read that thing. So I think all in all, she went in a strategy in understanding herself, what it is, what she has got into first. She's done the basics very right, and then once she's understood it, she's done in a very aggressive offensive attack and a very fast moving way in most of the situations on horizontal integrations, in diversing themselves, and got into a very expanded, stable position as of now. Thank you very much.
Very good. Look at the knowledge of business strategy from 3 days. Very good, brilliant. Who goes next? Any questions? Come.
Yeah, good evening.
Mic it.
Good evening, everyone. And I think we got quite broad idea from our colleagues already. And I'll add a couple of things to that, not to repeat the same thing. One of the things in the mission statement that we found was that anywhere, anytime, every day. And that's truly inspiring, and then that pushes the team to go towards that. And that's something that we valued, and to add to the vision statement which was shared by our colleague already with the team. And also their goals and values to build and maintain high-performing organization, and that's something that she really drives towards. An open, honest and trustworthy company, reliable to all employees and customers. And the look at the competitiveness, and that was not an area covered by Rani last time as well. And the market that they work on is, if you look at the rivalry among existing firms, which is very high, and that's our small analysis, because that's very competitive market. They have to compete with a lot of products that are coming from New Zealand and that type of the market, and especially in the local markets like India and Middle East, there are local very recognized brands. And the threat of new entrants is kind of moderate, and because there are no much suppliers that are coming up, and then it requires a lot of facilities around them, including the farming and the cattle fields. And the threat of substitutes is a bit low, because cheese is cheese at the end of the day, and there will be different categories, but there won't be much of substitutes to come in. And the bargaining power of customers is again low, because most of the users, most of the people who consume cheese, not much from Asia, but from the other part of the world, they have to have cheese as part of their normal routine. And the supplier's bargaining power is very high, because as we have seen at the beginning, and because there is only few suppliers, the farmers are the suppliers for them. And that leaves them to a kind of a competitive business because of the high bargaining power of suppliers, as well as the threat amongst the existing firms. And I agree with Ranil. We also had the same the understanding that their move was towards the offensive, and with the horizontal the diversification that came at the latter part once she established the business, and that we truly acknowledge that statement which she really shared, that the sales of China in the December as well as January, which doubled in 1 month in time. And it's not a first mover, because they have already lost their credibility and their position in the market. They were followers, they were fast followers. They could grab up, with the new CEO coming in, they could grab up the market in matter of very short time horizon. And and eventually, as we all can see, it enhanced the shareholders' value. That's why that was an attractive investment to spot on for further expansion of their business.
Very good, brilliant. Give it. Who's going next?
Hi all, good evening to everyone. I think we will just touch upon a few areas where the two other speakers didn't talk about. I think that's about the company values, and we have noticed 6 values in the value statements of Kraft Heinz, which is innovation, quality, safety, respect, integrity, and openness. I think this more or less describes to us, as a company, where they're heading and what they are up to. The first one is innovation. Then they're talking about quality. This is like what they are thriving on as a FMCG company. And then the openness to changes and new ideas. So this is what they are thriving on as a company, Kraft Heinz. And as we know, the Kraft preliminary started as a cheese company. Then they moved into the orange, the powder drink business, which is Tang. And then later on, they acquired Nabisco, United Biscuits, to expand their confectionery range. Then Jacobs Suchard for the chocolates. Then they moved into Heinz, acquiring Heinz. They became Kraft Heinz. And now the latest development is they have the joint venture with Mondelez. which is again like expanding vertical expansion of the range of products and services they supply to the customers. Sanjeev?
In terms of strategy, and they have used best cost strategy, and the reason being they have been cost conscious previously, and they wanted to differentiate with the innovation and world class cost structure that take them to the next level. And the move was offensive. The reason being that the craft struggle was, it has been heavily emphasized on cost. And the shining example is acquiring Hens and Cadbury. Right, and the timers, they have been the first mover. And yes, we have done only up to that much.
Good, very good, excellent. Anything new to add? Nothing? Huh? Nothing new to add? Nothing new to add? Huh?
Yeah, we observe that vision is not much focused.
Hello?
It is a broad statement, helping people around the world who can value better.
Okay. Yeah, it's
As you know from Professor Dharmakuri's lecture, it is not having any time-bound goal achievement.
There are two schools of thought in this. I know textbook says it has to be very time bound, measurable, academic, and all that. But some people think that it's a dream, huh? Inspiring dream where it's almost untouchable. You get there, it goes a little distance. It's not achievable, so it inspires people to go there.
It doesn't have to be really
Yeah,
time-bound.
it doesn't.
Time-bound are different visions. It's coming with shorter visions. We are coming up 2020 vision, 2050 vision, so on and so forth. Vision has to be the ultimate
Very
goal
dream
that
like.
you want.
When you get up, it's not there.
Especially they have used vision and mission as a slogan,
Correct.
because it is mentioned that people around the world you can live better. This is a vision. So especially provide fun, healthy food for people to enjoy. This is the attractive point that they are
Rallying people.
using as a slogan, but it is in the mission statement.
Good, very good. Any other thoughts? Yeah.
So that underperforming brands will be
Correct. That's a part of the restructuring.
And also I think they were trying to go to the untapped market, which is India and China.
Right.
They were not being able to do with the existing range. That's why they were going with those vertical expansion to ensure that their presence is quite strong and secure there.
Yep.
I have something to add on based on the overall subject knowledge as a summary of the case. So we've been discussing about strategy for business. So when you make a strategy, you need to have your operations support you to the strategy. And you need to have a leader who is consuming that strategy and diluting among everyone and take it forward. And you need to have right people at the right places. So what this lady has done to turn over the company is to stick to that basic. She got the strategy right, and she got the focus back, and she had the right people at the right positions.
Absolutely.
And while talking about diversification and all that, you still go for horizontal diversification, but you need to retain that focus. So this was the missing link while they were having this difficult period, which she has correctly put it back. That focus, along with your strategy, with the right people, is the right combination for a successful company.
Very good. Any other thoughts? Right, guys. It's been amazing in the last day. From morning till the time we started. And I was talking to Professor Dharmasiri also. He's telling me how he enjoyed teaching you and how you have evolved. He was telling me from the first lecture to now, the depth of knowledge, the experience you've gathered is amazing. And I'm actually honored to have associated with you in the last 7-8 hours. It's been fabulous, the kind of contribution, the kind of feedback you give, the enthusiasm, the involvement. I know it's very difficult for you all with the work, living in a completely different country. But I mean, hats off, just brilliant. Brilliant. It gives us a lot of joy to come and teach. Come the whole night, and now I go again the whole night, and then land in Sri Lanka, and then stand in the queue for 2-3 hours to get the immigration stamp to go to my country. But we still go through that because of the huge satisfaction I really get out of it. And this is one of the best experiences I've ever had. And, remember, it's very tough. Life is very tough. Huh? Like any other thing that you do, life is very tough. I have learned 3 very important lessons in life over the years. And I want to share that with you. Everything that you do, you will find someone inside you saying, "Ado ne heta karande, karabalayan ne heta karande." Always inside you, somebody is telling you, "No need to do it now. You can do it tomorrow." So there was this very old couple in China. Very old gentleman, can't even walk, and he wanted to go out and sit. Can't even walk, very old, feeble. His wife was equally feeble. She was holding his hand, getting the guy to sit outside. And it was very hot. Couldn't sit outside. So he sat there, but he couldn't last. Quickly came in, brought in greatest difficulty. Then he found, then the lady went to make tea and all that. And when she came, she found the guy was not there. She got really scared. This guy can't even walk. Definitely this guy would have died. She looked for him, shouted, couldn't find. Then she went out to see. The guy was there, the old man was digging a hole, and he was planting a tree. And she asked him, "What are you doing?" He said, "I'm planting a mango tree." And she asked, "Why?" "Because it's very hot here, you know. If we had a tree to be shady, it would be very nice." But the lady has said, "You will not live until the tree grows and then the branches come, the leaves come out to stand or sit under the shadows. You won't live." He said, "Doesn't matter. I should have planted this tree 20 years ago. I don't want to miss the second best opportunity." And the second best opportunity that you couldn't do long time ago is when? Today, now. Everything in life is like that. Lots of things we couldn't do. You decided to do an MBA somehow without postponing. Now after the MBA is only the life really starts. All what you learn, all what you have gathered, you need to put into place. You need to make Sri Lanka proud while you're here, and you need to come back and contribute to the country. And for that, you need sheer dedication. Beat that, that mind that somebody is saying, "Don't do it today, you can do it later." When I told you, some of you, to do the presentation, you say, "No, aave karai." That is that mind inside that person saying, "What a pain. Where ko he present kara?" Get out of that. Set very high standards. Set very high standards for you. Doesn't matter. Abraham Lincoln was told that he'll never be a leader one day. But he persevered. Set very high standards. Attention to detail. Next one. Lot of attention to detail. Everything. And the last one is fearless persistence. This lady turned around Kraft because a lady turned around that company only because of these 3. Attention to detail. Set very high standards. Attention to detail and persist fearlessly. So I hope you will do very well in your exams. That's not important, exams. What is important is life after that, where you really contribute, make our country proud, and you come back and become top managers. I'll be there to salute you that day. All the best. Right? Thank you.